Aldo Leopold, the father of wildlife management, was a visionary ahead of his time. By the end of the 1800s, unregulated game hunting and industrialization had impacted the environment tragically. When efforts for conservation began, Leopold embraced them. However, as he realized that the early conservation movement protected the environment only for human use, Leopold introduced a new concept that asked for an ethical and moral relationship between people and the land. Even though during the 60s and 70s stronger environmental laws were passed, marking an increased acceptance of Leopold's ideas, his work is still relevant today as our society struggles to stop seeing the environment as a commodity that belongs to us. In the late 1800s, America experienced widespread industrialization with rapid population growth. The railroad expansion across the country made goods available and less expensive than before. It also aided hunters to indiscriminately kill thousands of animals, in particular the American bison. Witnessing the effects that industrial capitalism had on the country's natural resources, many people urged the government to take an active role in regulating industries. Teddy Roosevelt, the conservationist president, supported this idea. He stated, "I recognize the right and duty of this generation to develop and use the natural resources of our land, but I do not recognize the right to waste them, or to rob, by wasteful use, the generations to come after us." At the time, there were two conservation management views. John Muir's vision of preservation asked for human traces and personal interests to be removed completely from the wilderness system. Giver Pinchot's vision of conservation advocated to wisely use the nation's resources and protect the environment for future generations, allowing private interests to responsibly use the land for logging, mining, and other purposes and still benefit from it. President Roosevelt agreed with Pinchot's conservation vision. He used his executive power to place 230 million acres of public land under federal protection and made Pinchot the first Forest Service chief. This act brought conservation to the public's eye. In 1909, Aldo Leopold graduated from the Yale School of Forestry established by Pinchot. It was the first school that taught modern European forestry methods, and it trained students who would work later for Pinchot in the Forest Service. While working for the Forest Service, Leopold witnessed how soil erosion, roads, hunters, and private interests continued to damage the wilderness. He soon began to question the model followed by foresters at the time, as it only appeared to commercialize nature, putting the environment second. Aldo Leopold started to shift away from Pinchot's utilitarian views. He challenged the Forest Service practices in 1924 when he opposed the Cal Ranchers' proposal to build a road that would divide the Gila National Forest. Leopold argued that America needed a continuous stretch of country preserved in its natural state. As a result, the Gila National Forest in New Mexico became the first designated wilderness area in the country. In 1928, shortly after Leopold was transferred to work in Madison, Wisconsin, his interest in game management increased and he began planning a survey of game. Amidst his planning, the Sporting Arms and Ammunition Institute, interested in assuring a market for their products, offered Leopold to conduct the most extensive native game management survey ever done in the country. He took the offer because it aligned with his interests. In 1933, Leopold published his findings in the book Game Management. The same year, the University of Wisconsin created a chair in game management for Professor Aldo Leopold. 6 years later, he formed the Department of Wildlife Management. It became the first academic department in the world dedicated to that emerging field. When Leopold visited Germany and Mexico, he noticed that in Mexico, where the wilderness was left untouched and in its natural condition, the species lived in perfect equilibrium. In stark contrast to what was happening in Germany, where the resources were managed to maximize production. Trees were planted in rows and wild animals were raised in game farms, a practice that the United States was extensively adopting. This led Leopold to co-found the Wilderness Society and the Wildlife Society. These organizations were committed to preserve predators and game animals, as well as representing wildlife conservation, management, sustainable wildlife population, and healthy ecosystems through science-based conservation. His His lifelong work led Leopold to pioneer a conservation doctrine that involves an ethical and caring relationship between people and the land. He called it the land ethic.
He's writing about the relationship of people to each other and the relation of people to land.
He wrote a series of essays to convey this idea to the public. In 1948, Leopold died via a brush fire on a neighboring farm, a week after he learned that the Oxford University Press would publish his essays in a book titled The Sand County Almanac. Through the 1960s and 1970s, America witnessed how the Cuyahoga River went up in flames due to excessive pollution, how marine life suffered due to the Santa Barbara oil spill, and how the use of pesticides affected birds and possibly compromised human health. Environmental groups, including the societies Leopold founded, urged the government to pass legislation that would better protect the nation's resources from destructive practices and preserve the last remnants of wilderness areas in the country. As a result, the Roadless Wilderness Act, which protects wilderness areas from private interests, the Wild Scenic Rivers Act, that preserves certain rivers with outstanding natural, cultural, and recreational values in a free-flowing condition, and the Endangered Species Act, that protects and recovers imperiled species and the ecosystems upon which they depend on, were passed. These laws reflected an increased interest in an ethical approach to see the land as something that needed to be protected. However, the environment continues to be under threat. Private interests continue to abuse the environment for their own gain, while the government undermines the nation's natural heritage. The Obama administration sold coal deposits and leased around 5.3 million acres of federal land and water to industries, the most in over a decade. It also attempted to remove some predators from the Endangered Species Act. In 2017, the Trump administration agreed to reduce the land area of the national monuments Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante in Utah, and opened them for mining and drilling companies.
Develop land that should be conserved, or undo current protections, like with monuments, and particularly in Utah, what's called Bears Ears and Grand Staircase. We definitely try and work to fight against those and keep special places protected.
Current administration has also withdrawn from the Paris Agreement that combats global warming, and it has changed the Endangered Species Act to take into account economic considerations before saving a species' habitat.
The Endangered Species Act works, and it's protected a lot of predators. The problem we have is finding a way. What the Endangered Species Act doesn't really do well is to identify and then protect the habitat that predators need.
All these actions represent a serious threat to the environment and animals, as scientists agree that the Earth is in its sixth mass extinction and humans have killed 83% of all wild animals. Aldo Leopold's book, The Sand County Almanac, is recognized as a classic piece of outdoor literature. It is one of the two most venerated and significant environmental books of the 20th century, and it will continue to ask us if a still higher standard of living is worth its cost and makes natural, wild, and free.